Welcome to Whirlwind, ladies and gents.
That's disgusting.
It's like a whirlwind.
I was leaning on my cat.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for watching.
Okay, recording now. I feel like I just ran a couple miles, and all I did was set up the tech. So many apologies this time around. This one's a new one, also because I messed up the tech. I never claimed to be an IT person. I'm just a girl.
But you are the it girl.
We're comedians, baby. I can't plug my headphones into the mic jack properly, but I can make a joke about Missouri. And you're welcome for being back. I know you missed my face.
I am a little
Buzz.
off of Henry Hotspur's Hard Pressed for Cider from Trader Joe's.
I'm drinking the blue of the moon
How'd you get that?
from the fridge.
Nice.
Thank you. Today, we're doing a special episode, and I'm very excited about this episode. I'm a little too excited about this episode. We're going to do top 5 released albums of the year.
This was definitely your idea, which I really appreciate the idea because it made me listen to a lot more full albums than I would have. 3 years ago, I was not album focused at all. Like, quite frankly, I did not care. I was like, I want a song. I want a playlist. I want this completely randomized list of, separate individual projects. And it wasn't until I started viewing songs as storytelling that I was like,
Wow.
Yeah, because you said that you listen to artists and bands that are from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s that
yeah.
don't make music anymore. And when you said that, I was like, oh, I really am pretentious. I really like knowing music that's up to date.
And I'm pretentious because I like not knowing music that's up to date. We're both just pretentious in different ways.
Yeah. Number 5 is AWOL Nation. I found this album very nostalgic. I haven't listened to them since 2012 when Megalithic Symphony, that album came out. Bigger songs that he's done were out on the radio. Like I remember listening to 105.1, the Raleigh's biggest pop radio. They would play a lot of the top songs from that album, and I would listen to the pop station almost exclusively, and he was playing on the radio. First of all, it's just a fun pop rock album. There's tracks on there that are a little bit almost Daft Punk-like, which I really enjoyed. And hearing his voice again, it was just really comforting. And so I definitely returned to this album way more than I thought I would.
I listened to it and I have to admit I was skeptical because I've never really listened to AWOL Nation. I of course had heard of them because they were pretty big. I really enjoyed it and it really made me miss you because for me it was nostalgic of times in the car with you. Like when you were playing that like jumpin' music, because I never really listened to music like that, but the times that I have, it's been with you. And so it was like so for me, I really enjoyed it because of that reason, like that punk rock pop, like energetic, I liked it more than I expected. What was your favorite song off of the AWOL Nation album?
I picked A Letter to No One. That one I really returned to a lot, and it's kind of just got like this dreamier electric sound to it, kind of like distorted guitar hook throughout the entire thing. It just is really kind of a little bit eerie, but also beautiful at the same time. So I listened to that one a lot. Very lush energy, if you will.
All right. So for the AWOL Nation, the vibes for me were like 6 out of 10.
I actually would also give it a 6 out of 10. Maybe like a 6.5 out of 10. I want to be a pitchfork reviewer today.
All right, my 5th was Mind Man Medicine by the Secret Sisters. This one came out exactly a month after my breakup. And it was so comforting. My favorite songs off of those, I had 2, was It's Paperweight and Same Water. But Same Water is specifically like, are you drowning in the same water as me? Or like, are we all drowning in the same water? Is like a lyric that keeps coming up. And it's so interesting of like, is everyone in the same situation? Like, does everyone feel the same? And it's such a comforting song.
I was really, to be honest, I was surprised. And I had never listened to an album fully of theirs. So when I listened to this one, I was surprised just because of how indie it sounded. The first song, Space, I listened to it while biking in the dark.
Oh, wow.
That blew my mind because it was the most perfect song to listen to while biking in the dark, and I can't explain it. I can't explain it. You just have to do it for yourself.
It's so atmospheric.
It really felt like it opened up the album, like we were really getting
Hmm.
into the space for it.
Yeah.
I played that song 5 times before I got into the actual other tracks.
You were my introduction to that band. I didn't know about them until you sent me that song Late Bloomer, and I was like, I identify with this so much. I love it. And then I started researching them and I was like, oh my gosh, they're Christian. Like
Yeah.
so many little things where I was like, I really appreciate about them because it's not like on the forefront, you know?
I didn't know they were Christian, so that's actually
Yeah.
news to me.
And that's why like they have that those like my sister always says this phrase like threads of Christianity where it's kind of woven in, but it's not right on the forefront. Like it's not grating.
You mentioned that Paperweight was one of your favorite, and that was definitely one of my favorites. It's just so nice. I listen to the lyrics and I'm just like, I can't help but like have a smile on my face. And I was so happily shocked to see Ray LaMontagne in here. So happy. He released a new album this year, which is not in the top five, but is still a fantastic album. He is one of my favorite artists. And I actually really like that song just in general. I think the harmonies on that, the harmony arrangement on that is really, really gorgeous. But the harmonies on all these
So good.
tracks are fantastic.
Secret Sisters, my man medicine for me would be like a 7 out of 10.
I gave it a 7 out of 10. Like I wrote it down.
I feel like I didn't study for a test.
Okay, number 4 for me, Babe Doobie.
Be a
Be a Badoobie. Babe Dubba.
be a da booby.
It's like you're scatting. Via Badoobies, this is how tomorrow moves. Music has to strike you at the right time. I don't think that you can just listen to any album and have the same feeling that you would if you listen to it in a
Yeah.
very specific moment in your life, maybe later, that fit the album a little bit more. I think this just struck at the right time because it was summer,
Yeah.
I was very busy, and I just needed something in between commute. So cohesively sunny. There was a lot of kind of like 90s rock inspiration on some of the tracks, just light, airy vocals from her. She would be a really good jazz contemporary artist.
I could see that.
She reminds me, and maybe I'm the only one that would think this, but Nora Jones and her, I think, are very similar in the way that they sing.
It's very deep and airy at the same time.
Yeah, and I think some of the songs on this album were a little jazzier, like kind of like bossa nova jazzy.
I think I liked Take a Bite and The Man Who Left Too Soon. Those are two that I remember listening to and being like, oh wow.
Yeah, and I think that the production on this album, like it's very production heavy, and I really like how clean it sounds. Some people complained about that. They said that it sounded a little too monotone or homogeneous. I'm gonna pull out a science word. The singles that she released were a little poppier. Ever Seen was just like a really fun
Yeah,
rock pop song. So I think,
energetic.
yeah, everybody was really expecting that. I didn't have that preconceived notion in my head, so I kind of went into it with a little more like full eyes open, and it just felt like an album I could put on and really enjoy myself.
Did you have a favorite song?
It was Girl Song.
Interesting.
This might show up in my top 5 played songs of the year.
Wait, I need to make sure I know which one this is.
Well, it's kind of funny because I sent this song to you. I remember you saying this song is unimpressive.
I wouldn't say that though.
I don't
I'm
think this
listening.
is the best song on the album. There was many long days that I had where I would be like, I just need Girl Song to play.
Okay, I just listened to a clip of it. I'm tracking. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just a piano ballad and then her singing, and it's just her singing about girl troubles. That's really all it is.
First of all, if apologies are necessary, I'd love to apologize. I'm
No,
sorry that I said it was
I
boring.
wasn't hurt at all. I was like, you're probably right.
I don't necessarily disagree with myself now because I think that it's very low energy. I wasn't overly impressed with the lyrics. I think I was really focused on what she was singing at the time when I listened to it because I think I do remember that. But I listened to that song and I was incredibly encouraged. The song like that could be on an album and do well because that's what a lot of my music is going to be like, especially in this next album after this. It's very simple, like one track of instrument and me singing. And a lot of the ones that I'm doing on this like my second album, are very ballady,
Hmm.
very personal, and it was actually so encouraging to listen to that. So that's like another example of how music, it's all about the time that it hits you in.
I love a stripped ballad, and I think it's because it is so genuine. It's like when you listen to one of the songs in like the top 10 Hot 100 list and you can't tell anybody that you are,
Yeah.
but you keep coming back to it and it's a little bit, you feel a little bit ashamed for it, but
Hmm.
you don't stop.
I feel that. That's me with some Sabrina Carpenter, I'll tell you that. Like every time it comes on at work, I'm like, this is something. And I'm like, oh man.
But I'd give it a 7.2.
I give it a 6.8. Right On by Humbird. My favorite song was Seven Veils because I just kept coming back to that one. It was something about the melody was really captivating in that one, and just the lyricism and like the way that she said certain phrases and like wove them into the song was just incredible. But the whole album is just atmospheric and it really pulls me into the story that they're telling. And that's this album. All about really warm vocals, really warm tones, and repeated melodies. And there was a lot of that in this album.
I wrote down that it's very much a highway album, and by highway album, I mean
Yes.
you would listen to this on a road trip on a loop. Broom, broom. It is a really, really strong folk album. The opening track, there was like this really moody melody, but almost a little bluesy too, and I really was in love with her vocals.
Yeah.
And the lyrics, I thought oh, my internet connection's unstable. Never mind. The lyrics also on some of the songs were above average, to be honest. Ghosts
Hmm.
on the Porch. I think the imagery on that one was really well done, but also Right On, title track song. It's just a
Hmm.
really good song. I lost my train of thought again.
It made you do the thumbs up again. 7.2 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 6.8, only because there was three songs that started to melt into one for me. I did not love Song for the Seeds.
See, I don't even remember which one that one is, so that's not a good sign.
There is if a track is forgettable, I don't think it should be included on the album. The rest of it, good. But okay, number three is Role Model. Kansas Anymore.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at how you hate that you like this album because you talked about it so much.
I fell in love with this album against my will.
Help!
I have this CD signed in my car.
You need to leave!
And okay, and also like when you have context for the music, it helps a little bit.
Makes sense. Can you explain that to me?
So, Role Model was dating the influencer Emma Chamberlain, which is how I discovered him. I really like Emma Chamberlain. So when she started dating this guy, I was like, a singer. This is very cliche. And he was releasing his first album, RX, at the time that they were dating. The album as a whole fell flat for me. I wasn't in love with it. I thought it was a little bit underproduced, and I thought that it lacked a lot of depth. They break up, and I'm curious how he's gonna come back from this because he talked about her like she was the love of his life, and he talked genuinely in interviews about how she was the first person that he's ever fallen in love with. So their
Wow.
breakup, I'm like, this is gonna be very interesting. He releases his first single. It is so mature in its lyrics. It is very introspective. It's basically talking about how he's still in love with her, but he understands that she's moving on and that he hopes that it's going well because in some part of himself, he wants her to have a happy life.
What?
You could say that he was your role model.
You could say that. I don't know if you'd want to. You could say that. Then he releases the second single, which I think is Oh Gemini,
Hmm.
and the production on that was really a tier above his previous album. And I come to find out one of his favorite albums is Golden Hour by Casey Musgraves, which is one of my favorite
Interesting.
albums. I really think that that broke ground for the country space because it kind of fused country and indie in a very beautiful, spacious, luscious way. I think it really is a beautiful album. And he also did too. And so one of the producers, he helped co-produce some of the songs on this album. So that's why it is also similarly a kind of pop country album.
I didn't like go song by song. I just listened to it. Especially with those, I was like getting a feel for the album as a whole instead of going like only with my albums that I'd go like I like these individual songs unless they like stuck out to me. And I really liked the first song on the album, Writings on the Wall. And I really liked the lyrics in that one. And especially like the story that he told.
And it's very funny that you bring that up because I showed some of the songs on this album to my mom, and this is a mom approved album. My mom and I do not always see eye to eye on music. I think that we definitely have like of the Venn diagram, we definitely have a lot of songs in the middle that meet. And so
Yeah.
whenever we're in the car together, I try to play the songs in the middle that meet. But sometimes she's just like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like,
Hmm.
"It's it's inventive, mother." This one I put on and she was like, "Who is this?" Like, oh, this is a role model.
Yeah, I know that your mom and I have similar taste in music because she wrote me a letter, and in it, she was talking about how she's learning the mandolin and you're practicing guitar. She was like, we should all learn a song together, and we can't let Rachel make us play Bob Dylan. And I Googled the other day if Bob Dylan is still alive. I wanted to tell you. And then the Google search right under that, like the recommended was, is Bob Dylan deaf?
People don't understand true art. It smacked you in the face.
Now, I don't hate Bob Dylan. This is a public misconception since I have publicly shamed him. No, I haven't. But
You
I think it's funny.
it's the
I
time that
think
it
it's
hits
funny.
you. It's the
Yeah,
time that it hits you.
exactly. And I agree because I listened to, gosh, what is that? You sent me a song by Bob Dylan,
So
and I
many,
listened to it
honestly.
just like a woman. Just like a
Yes.
woman. I love that song. And so it's like certain songs by him. I'm like, I really like that, but I tried to just here's why I'm not album focused. When I really like an artist, I will be like, oh, I come across a song. And I'm like, oh, I need to learn more about this artist. And I will go to their Spotify thing or like, because I listen on Spotify mostly, and I will just shuffle on all their music.
I think it's a great way to learn about an artist, but I think that there's definitely a caveat when it comes to Bob Dylan specifically because he has so many different eras of music. Like the 60s Bob Dylan is so different from 70s Bob Dylan and 80s Bob Dylan and 90s Bob Dylan. But it's just his music style changed so radically over his entire lifetime that it's very difficult to lump him into this one category because he was always trying to subvert people's expectations of him musically. So like putting on him on shuffle would be insane to me. Like I wouldn't
Okay,
even
because I
know
did
what
that.
someone would think about that.
And what I thought with that was I cannot listen to this guy's voice for another second. So I understand that he had different eras, that he had different, but here's the thing, is like his style of singing, at least from what I remember, is pretty consistent.
Except for Nashville
90s
Skyline,
or
his very country album, he sounds like Kermit the Frog. I will not begrudge you at all for that because I get
okay,
it. I
thank
get it.
you.
And
Yeah.
I think so many other people also understand that exact feeling. I think I just fell in love with him as a lyric writer. But again,
And I appreciate that. And I like
we
the way
all
that he
come to
writes his
Bob
lyrics.
when we come to Bob. Who are we to judge?
I'm terrified. When am I coming to Bob? What if I don't want to come to Bob?
So my favorite song on the album was So Far Gone with Lizzie McAlpine. Beautiful voice
I
on
love
that
Lizzie
lady.
McAlpine.
The chorus of them singing "If you wanted me to go, you should have told me" really breaks my heart, and just the
Yes, I
production on
remember.
that.
Yes.
Voices complement each other so well. I really hope that they do more together in the future because I think
Hmm.
that the complementing of the harmonies was just I give it like a 7.2. It's a solid pop country album.
Yeah, 7. I think the same as
Hey,
the Be a Doobie?
be
Doobie.
be ba doobie.
Be a
Beep beep
Doobie.
beep
Be a
doobie.
Doobie.
Beep, Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Anyways, The Promise of Spring by George Boomsma. This was such a random find for me. I was just on my Instagram. I was mid-painting. I was like, I'm gonna take a break. And this dude comes up with this song and this voice, and I'm like, what? And so I find his Spotify. First of all, he has like 800 something monthly listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, that is criminal. He should be famous. The production, like again, it's that warmth. That warmth gets me every time. And I think something that this is why Bob Dylan isn't in my top artists because I classify if I really like an artist by how obsessively I can listen to their music. This album, I listen to it so much, and specifically Cashmere Gray. That's my favorite song. The writing in that is so good, and like one of the lines is, I will hide my inhibitions from the family and all friends. And like I love when artists like break up a sentence like that where it's like da 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 and there's a pause and it's like and all
Yeah.
friends. That was very probably bad, but
Good job.
there's something about the tone of that song and the space in it where it's not packed with lyrics. That again, it's that like it's atmospheric, it sets a mood. It really sets a stage for you to bring your own emotions into it rather than telling you how to feel, and it gives you space to experience the song. And I think it's beautiful. I also love that that song, the feeling of the song and the texture of the song matches the title of the song. Cashmere Gray, that is exactly what that song feels like to
Okay.
me. Okay,
You want to know the note that I put under it?
what is it?
I put down heard it before, period.
I feel so much better about saying that that song was boring.
Okay. So I do want to return to it because
Okay.
and this is one of the reasons why I really enjoy talking about music. Because people give you different goggles to see songs with.
Yeah.
Songs that I don't like or have not liked in the past, someone will describe it to me in the way that they see it through their vision, and I start to love that song because I
Yes.
just it's like they color the entire page in for me. I'm gonna return to that one and I'm gonna listen to it through your eyes, ears. This is more like an atmospheric album. Like it definitely reminded me, and it's like more progressive folk in the way that he arranged it, which I think was like really striking. But it reminded me of Jonathan Ogden, which he is not well known at all. He does more gospel music, but he likes to do it in a kind of more jazzier contemporary lo-fi. It is so focused on the instrumentals and the way that it's arranged in the song
Yes, yep.
that it really sucks you into its world, and I really love that feeling. Also, his voice is very much like Sufjan Stevens. Dan Stevens pronunciation.
Yeah, Sufjan.
Sufjan Stevens.
The first track, Fallen, when his voice comes through, I was like,
Yeah.
this sounds so eerily similar to Sufjan Stevens.
It's
Sufjan
Sufjan.
Stevens.
Sufjan. Sufi.
Sufjan.
Sophia.
No.
Sophia Stevens.
Okay.
Help me.
I really liked 2 plus 30. I think that had a great development through the song, especially because you get the kind of like the strumming and then the lead guitar, like a little bit of a hook starts to be blended in there, and then it starts to be fully layered on top at the end, and I love a good progression. And just as a fun one, Johnny Walker Guy, I think that was just fun. Like I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
What would you rate this album?
I'd probably give this one a 6 out of 10 or 6.2 out of 10 because because I think that it was really good, but the production quality was lower than the other albums. And I
Well,
liked the atmosphere that it created, but I was only really stunned by the atmosphere and the spatial quality of it and less by the lyricism.
I think I put down a 7.2. I
Wow,
think
higher than mine.
I liked how progressive it was. I think that his arrangement was really well done and a very cohesive album. So I think I really liked it.
I guess I liked the arrangement so much. I think the lyricism is what made it.
Yeah.
I think I gotta do a 7. I'll do a 7 I'm reconsidering my rating. I'll do
You
a
can't
7.
reconsider.
I'm reconsidering. I'm re-rating.
MJ Lenderman, Manning Fireworks. I can already tell you don't like this song.
I'd love to know what you see in it.
Background to this, because there is a background to this artist. Picture me a year ago in a coffee shop. I'm doing logic games because I'm studying for the LSAT like a mad woman. It's
Yeah.
6 in the morning. There's about 4 or 5 people in there, and they're all old men. On the speakers, the NC State College radio is playing, and I hear kind of like garage band country sound come through the airwaves, and I'm blown away. Like, I'm like, this is beautiful. So I like Shazam it, and it's a band Wednesday, which is from Asheville, North Carolina. And I'm like, wow, that is so cool. I listened to the whole album, Bull Believer, but something about it really grabbed at the heart of kind of small Appalachian communities in North Carolina. Carly Hertzman, the lead singer, just has a very unique voice. It's like she sad yodels the entire time she sings, and I just
Hmm.
think it's so unique and so beautiful. The guitar playing and the distortion that they use, it is just really, it blew my socks off. So the singer and the lead guitarist were dating at the time of this album, which I thought was very interesting because I was like, well, let's see how that turns out. They broke up. Shocker.
Never been done before.
But it gets even more interesting because the lead
Okay.
guitarist goes on his solo project, which is MJ Lenderman, which is this
Okay.
guy. She is the backup vocals on this entire album, and they tour together.
What the heck?
It's very interesting on some of these songs because there's definitely a lot of heartbreak songs on this album, and she's backup vocals for some of these songs. And some people think that a lot of these songs are not about her, but I have to believe that at least one of them is about her, and she's singing
Oh yeah.
backup vocals on this
Which is
song,
insane.
which is very country, and I love that. I think it is so
Yeah.
cool. It makes a banger album. The kind of like lazy rock sound that this album has, I'm in love with. I think it is really great, and I really think this caps off my year really nicely in terms of what I've been listening to this year because I've been listening to a lot of Kurt Vile and a lot of Courtney Barnett.
Mhm.
They are kind of like the king and queen of
They
kind of
are.
like lazy country sounds, but also a little bit of psychedelic folk in there as well. And they were my finds for this year, and I listened to them on repeat. And this one, I was just like, this is wonderful because not only is it a little bit of that scene, but it's also this new scene of like it's just like almost Americana rock, but also
Yeah.
like grungy, but also like underproduced, but also overproduced in some ways. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but the lyrics on it really just kind of captured me. Like I just kept repeating, I got a houseboat docked at the Himbo Dome so many times that my mom really was worried for me. I don't know why.
Insane.
I got a houseboat docked at the Himbo Dome.
The album art really got me. This is the only album that I don't think that I actually made it through. There was multiple times that I thought that I liked it because I would hear like a lyric and be like, "Oh, that's clever." And then the next line I was like, "Oh, he just wrote that to rhyme." Like it was like something was nice and then it was capped off with, "Oh, like just you're not even tying it in a bow to finish it." I think it is specifically because like there's a couple I'm glad you brought up Courtney Barnett because that made me put it in a box. I liked one song by her, and then after hearing it a few times, I couldn't listen to it anymore. It's something
Mm.
about that style that also is grating to me. It's like I have a very specific ear when it comes to music, and it's like if something is either overstimulating or does not make sense to me, I will not enjoy listening to it.
I think you are right because his lyrics, I think, intentionally undercut itself. I think he does that on purpose, and I can see why most people would not like it. It feels
Yeah.
to me, a lot of the lyrics feel like a joke, and it feels like we're in on the joke. Like he's telling us
Yeah,
this
I didn't
really
feel in on the
funny,
joke. I think that's the difference.
man. I think it's just, and I'd like to explore it more because I don't really think I can put my finger on it completely. But like even some of the lines like once a perfect little baby, now he's a jerk. It was just like little lines like that where it's not profound. It's not like it hasn't been said before. It's just said in a way that's very plain stated, the kind of lyrics that you would overhear in a conversation that you're not a part of and you can't stop listening. It felt like that kind of lyrical
I
style.
like that. I will definitely re-listen.
That's true love right there. Feel free to skip the last 6 minutes of just guitar because the last song
I
is
will.
8 minutes long.
Okay. I really do like long songs.
You're like, I listen to long songs, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, I promise. I promise. But no, it's like I listen to King Crimson, but again, there's like sometimes seems like nonsense, but it's poetry, like Neutral Milk Hotel. Like
Yeah.
it's a different, like more folky vibe, and I think that's the only separation.
My main memory of you playing King Crimson was when we were going to our camping trip on Mount Mitchell and you played it, and my mom was in the back and she was like, "What are we listening to?" You were like,
Shut up. This is where it really kicks up, okay?
I will say that my favorite song, sorry, I'm cleaning out my ear. You Don't Know the Shape I'm In. I think it's the clarinets in it that really do it for me, and also the fact that he references the clarinets in the lyrics and he goes, the clarinets are doing their lonesome duck walk. And that is just a ridiculous line that no one should say about a clarinet, and yet he does, and it fits
Yeah.
so beautifully. And I also really like it because a lot of his fans suspect that this is the one about Carly Hartzman, his ex-girlfriend,
Hmm.
because it's like they're interacting and he's like, you don't know the shape I'm in. But I also think that it's like a little tongue in cheek. Like we could all say that about our own experiences because we all
Yeah.
don't know the shape that we're in. So I think it's also kind of like a little bit, he knows that he's being kind of a little bit silly. I'm gonna stop talking about this album.
Patterns in Repeat by Laura Marling is my second favorite album of the year. Anybody that knows me would think that it's the first because I am a huge fangirl. So her single came out, Patterns. I could not believe, like, I was shocked and amazed and so excited because I did not expect another Laura Marling album for a very long time because the last time she released one was a while ago. And since I discovered her and since I started listening to her, she had not released music since then. I think I can genuinely say that this is the first artist in my entire life that I have been waiting on their music release. That's never happened to me before because feel like I've been catching up my whole life on what music is and how like discovering so many different styles that I've never been waiting for an album to come out. And it did not disappoint me. I listened to so much of her music, like, and I get so emotional about this, I'll probably start crying. I remember the first time that I heard her, I was like on my commute to work. It was after I had moved out by myself for the first time. And one of her songs came on, and something about her voice and the way that the music was arranged. And again, it's that illusion of simplicity when it seems simple and it seems straightforward, and then you really listen and there's so many layers to it. But it was the first time that I had listened to music ever and thought, I could do this. And I think that's why she's such a big inspiration for me. Because it was something about the way that she wrote, the way that she sang. It was so intensely personal that I was like, this is incredible. And then I listened to her entire discography. And I specifically like this song that's called It's Once I Was an Eagle, is the album. And I Was an Eagle is the song, I think. And it's beautiful. And this whole album, Once I Was an Eagle, the first song I listened to her by her was Held Down. Love that song. But Once I Was an Eagle, that album has a recurring motif in it, like a sound that just comes back and back again. And it's like a unifying theme through the whole album. And it was the first time that I had ever heard somebody do that, where sometimes she'd arrange it in a slightly different pattern. And I was listening to the album Patterns in Repeat, and it got to this to the song Patterns in Repeat, and it like played the same note. It got to the bridge and it played the same note. And I was like, wait, that sounds like, and then it went down and it did like kind of the beginning and then it started over and I was like, I love that she did that. Like it's so similar to the motif, but I was like, I wonder, is she gonna like do it? And then she did it and it was the same melody. And I just like, I was in my car, like, yeah, I was like, no way, no way. Like, that's me. Like, I was so excited. I was so excited. And I just think it is so cool to have a whole album be about, I think this is what it's about, but like familial patterns and family trauma and how everything repeats itself and eventually circles back again. And to circle back to one of your albums from 2013, like that is so cool to me and so meta. Like, I just, I was over the moon. And that's not even, that's my favorite song because of that. But also, I just love Child of Mine. And
Hmm.
it's because it's that simplicity, it's that underproduced, which I'd love to say underproduced. It's probably not. It's just produced perfectly.
Hmm.
It sounds like you're alone in a room listening to her play. And
Yeah.
it's a story song and and her whole point with the album was against the whole idea of the pram in the hallway, which I had to look up 'cause she was posting about this. But she had a kid. And she was terrified because there's this idea within the artist community that, like, when you have a child, you lose your creative ability, you lose your time, you will not be able to pursue your craft anymore. And she was like, hopefully, this album can prove that that's not true. And to me, because I've always been scared of that, because, like, I'm like, oh, I have to fit all this in before I become a mother
Hmm.
one day, if I ever do. Like, that's not true.
Yeah.
And it just, there was, and to make your album about that, be about the patterns in your family repeating. Like, what the heck? That's so cool. So I just, and like, I think concept wise, this is absolutely my favorite album. This album gets a 9 out of 10 for me because honestly, like a 9.5 out of 10. It's just, it's so good.
I knew that this was going to be on here, or else I would have pulled it onto mine. You were the first person to introduce me to her.
Oh,
Um, and when Patterns came out, I got the alert on my phone of like her releasing it. And I was in my car and I was just blown away.
yeah.
And I really can't. It was one of those moments where it was like, I wish I could go back and hear it for the first time again because like you were saying,
That's my top song. Just butting in.
she turns a guitar into an orchestra on this album. I don't know how she
Yes.
does it.
I don't either.
The finger picking on that song sounds so
Oh,
large and huge and grand. The thing that is so beautiful about how she produced this album is, like you were saying, it feels underproduced because she lets the lyrics breathe. And I don't think other artists do
yes.
that.
Yes,
Like,
because they're
yeah,
afraid of what they have to say not being received well, and she puts it at the
yeah.
forefront.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of artists think that with more instrumentation, with more layering, that it makes the song better. And I think Laura knows exactly how to strike a balance between her focusing on the vocals, focusing on her lyrics, but also adding just the most beautiful orchestral instrumentation in this
Yes,
album. And she's just it's like a master class in that balance because she
it's
knows she knows like how to build up and how to punch you in the gut with
oh
these
yeah.
with like she hits you with this like really emotional line and then she goes into this deep orchestration and I'm just like the one that really kind of got me a little bit emotional was looking back. There's a lot of nostalgia in it, a little bit of bittersweet feeling in there, and she communicates that so well. And then the line of how sweet it is to think of things recovered. Such
Mm,
a hopeful, loving line.
yeah.
Then it goes into lullaby, and I started sobbing. I will be
Yeah.
honest, I sobbed
I
very hard to that. Yeah, because
I cried during this album too.
it like it was a maternal song for sure, but it felt like I was the child, and that sounds really hokey and corny, but
It's
it definitely
no,
did.
I've that's what it felt like.
Yeah, and I was a little
And
embarrassed
I
to feel
also
that
felt
way.
like the mother though. Like I'm like, this is what I would want to say to my kids. Like
Yes, yes, be
it's the duality. I felt like both.
yeah, because the first track, A Child of Mine, when she says, "I've spoken to the angels that protect you." Never had a kid before, but man, oh man, would that be something that I would think about with my kids.
There was also a line. Oh man, yeah, here we go. There was a line that was like, nothing of value was lost in the bringing of you to me. Dude, like, and it
And
just made me think of like all like especially like single mothers in the church growing up and like that kind of cynicism around their existence, the child's exist like and just that line was so good. Like
and
so good.
the fact that that was a part of the final verse of the entire album, and the next bit of it, I want you to have a piece of my maternal flame, part of me, eternity, and tolerance for pain. And then it ends. I'm gonna give it an 8.6. And the
Okay.
reason why it is not a 9 is because it is very overwhelming. And and I know that's like it shouldn't be docked because it is overwhelming, but it's like it's a very specific strain of emotion. It's a very specific album, and it is going to be timeless. It's not something that's going to have high playability for me, and it's not something that I'm going to return to a lot, but I will return to it because it is so beautifully done. And as an album, it's near perfect. Jessica Pratt here in the
Mm.
pitch. Very well acquainted with this album. It came out early in the year, and I discovered it through Pitchfork because I was looking at their like released music, and sh her single was on the Rising Music chart, and I was like, "Oh, interesting. I like the album art. It looked very much like something I'd listen to." And I do
Yeah.
judge a book by its cover, so I was like, "I'll give it a listen." The single that was released for this album was Life Is. It's just a very simple song, but the lyrics just really were sweet and simple, and the thing that I like about her lyrics in this album specifically is she plays with time a lot in it. Very much goes into past, present, future, but she does a lot of wordplay based on tenses. And this one just felt very much like it was living in the past specifically, but also had a lot of reflection in the future. And I created like this. We went on a hike, and I like videoed the hike, and then I put this song over the video footage because I like doing that.
Yeah.
And it really cemented that moment for me with my family, and it felt
Hmm.
I really became very much friends with this album in a way.
You
Um,
attached a memory to it too.
yeah, I definitely did. So then she released another single, and it was like, this is really good. And then I listened to the album came out, and this one really was repeatable throughout the year. I also got this on CD just because I wanted to have it. And so whenever my phone would die late at night, I would just play the Jessica Pratt album because that was the one that was in my CD-ROM. And it just felt like returning to an old friend throughout the year, even though
Hmm.
it felt like, I just discovered her. But every time I kept going back to this album, and new lyrics would strike me in a new way, or I'd hear this song in a different
Yes, I
way.
understand that feeling.
Yeah, like it feels like this album is so deeply layered in the way that she produced it. And then I saw her live, and my goodness, like it was so transformative because her voice and the instrumentation, it was very simple instrumentation, very simple percussion. She had some percussion in there, like a little drum in the back. And I was so captured by her and her performance, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. Like it was really one of those performances that really will be with me. I was sitting on the stairs because it was a standing room only, but my mom and I found like a stair area, and my mom was like, "I'm sitting," and I was like, "Me too." So we sat and we got like a higher view of her,
Hmm.
and she just like it was her and her guitar and a spotlight on her, and it was like she and I were the only people in the room, and she had that quality about her that really made you feel like you were in a private session with her and she was playing the guitar for you. And it was just it really meant a lot to me. Like this album just really means a lot to me. Oh, you started crying. I'm gonna start crying. It just, I don't know. It's just one of those albums that I really will not part with. So my favorite track on the album is World on a String, and it's very much for this particular line in the chorus. She says, I want to be the sunlight of the century. I want to be a vestige of our senses free. And that has come back to me so many times. Like, if I can
Huh.
just be a sliver of hope or freedom for someone, that is something that I'll feel good. I'll feel fulfilled with that. And for her to like it repeats in this way that it's just like a cry for I want to be this. I want to be sunlight for people, or I want to be just some ray of hope for someone who's going through a rough time.
Because it's interesting. The first time that I listened to her music, I really, really liked the instrumentation. I really, really
Mhm.
liked the lyricism, but her voice is so different that I had a
Yeah.
hard time getting used to it. And I didn't like her voice at first. The more I listened to it, the more I liked it. But it could have been the more I got towards the end of the album because I listened to it in order. Because I listened to this one a few times just while I was at work. So I was
Yeah.
like, I knew how much you liked it and I really wanted to get like like a full feel for it. But every time I listened to it, I liked it more. I feel
Oh, yeah,
like
then.
Jessica Pratt is to you what Laura Marling is to me. Like it was that hearing that song, right place, right time, becoming enamored with something about them, the way that it feels like you're alone in the room with them, and like eventually just listening to it over and over again until it became like home. Like that's exactly what Laura Marling is to me. So I like that I can really place your attachment to her.
And also the fact that both of these albums are ranked very similarly this year. So like the Pitchfork rankings or like all the music rankings, it's Laura Marling and it's Jessica Pratt, and they're like in this they like swap
Interesting.
places in the top 10, but they're definitely both in that sphere. So
I like that.
I thought it was really cool that they were both up there. I'd give this album an 8.8. I'm gonna give it an 8.8.
7.2. Live at Boston Harbor by Fleet Foxes. This was something I believe they released in the summer. I'll know what the seasons are like over yonder. But for me, listening to this song in the summer, I'm making sure that I'm right about the release date. I didn't, I listened to it. I think I listened to it in its entirety, but it was more in the background. And I was never fully drawn in. And I was like, oh, like it, but I preferred the studio recordings. And it's because they were nostalgic to me. Oh, no. But then
Wait a minute.
I listened to it a half a week ago. And I was like, this is the best thing that I have ever heard. And it's because it's fall. It's because there's a chill in the air. And that's when I got into Fleet Foxes. There is something about their music that is so magical because the way that they have so many melody lines in their music that intertwine and interact, and it's so playful, but they still have such deep poetic lyrics, is just, I have never come across another artist that's quite like that.
They have often been compared to Simon and Garfunkel, and I think that's
Mm,
probably the best comparison, but it
yeah.
doesn't quite get
Doesn't
there.
encapsulate what they are, which is crazy because I love Simon and Garfunkel.
Well, and I think our love for Simon and Garfunkel really well translates over because the harmonies that Fleet Foxes create
Yeah.
and base their music around are just so enrapturing. Like they came up right as we were growing up. And because we are such big folk fans, like don't know if anyone noticed, but like 90% of the albums that we talk about are folk. Hey, we've got the folk market cornered. I don't listen to a lot of live albums, but like it's just fun. This is a fun crowd in particular, like the way that they interact with the crowd.
Yes, they were.
Very,
I actually thought they were a little annoying, but it was funny.
they were raucous. Let me tell you, that
Yeah.
was like a
There were
loud
a
crowd.
couple of times where I was enjoying the music so much, and then it would go, "It's my birthday! We do it again!"
Oh!
Would I be screaming? Probably.
I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed hearing Can I Believe You was one that I just really, really enjoyed hearing live. And Ragged Wood,
That's
that
actually
one.
my all-time favorite song by them. Something about it's like da 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 da, and then it goes down and it changes and it's like lie to me if you will, and then it's like da 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 da, and it goes down and it's like the way it's again it's the way the melodies interact.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
playful. Amazing thing that I have ever experienced in music.
Rating on this album, I want you to give me a rating.
9.8 out of 10.
Give it an 8.5.
All right, well
Okay,
that
we did it.
concludes our what should we call it? Podcast wrapped.
It sounds like a really sad trombone from
And you said the hard team?
the home team.
Oh,
Not hard. And
Wonderman.
I'll finish NJ Lenderman or whatever. What
I'll
are you
finish his
gonna?
music.
I'll finish him. Finish
Finish
him.
him.
This podcast is
Oh.